Peace. That's it. I'm gone. Hey, what's going on, world? It's me again, Ethan Smith, aka Big Sarge, large and in charge of my one and only self, looking to take myself up off the shelf to discover my greatest internal wealth. Hoping you do the same for yourself. You know what it is this week. It is Grunt Speak, or the technical name Speak Grunt. When we come through, we speak to you. We hope you drop down in the chat. You come back and you speak to us too. Talk about some things that you are growing through and giving you some tips and pointers to help you to adjust you to where you want to be. But you know this true blue infantry. So if you're not 11B, 11 Charlie, 11 Alpha for my officer crew, 0311 for the Marine Corps boys in blue, yeah, we talking to you. But don't get it twisted. If you don't hold that MOS identifier, you still could be part of the crew. You just be support. That's what they do. They support the infantry and the boys in blue, and that's what we do, and we appreciate you. But I must say to you, this may not be for your kids, but your kids will be blessed by this. And why do I say this may not be for your kids? Because some of the words that we use, you might want to hide them away from your kids today. But trust me, it's going to bless them and help them in some way. So we back on Speak Grunt today, and we hope you come through and speak to us too. Looking in front of me, I got my buddy that most of y'all don't have an opportunity to see, who probably will be, hopefully, a new member or part of the crew on the panel. We got my man, he got Victor Mike up here. So Victor Mike, that's what we going to call him today, unless he changed it to another way. How are you doing, sir?
Short answer, blessed, man. Happy to be here. I know I've been here once before with you guys, probably like last year.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, feeling blessed, and just happy to be here, man.
Well, give me a quick 2.5 seconds to do, and I'll ask you a question to do some background work real quick that I need to do. Reach out to Whiskey Charlie a quick second, real quick too. And we going to make this thing happen, and we going to come through. If you are watching this video, I would ask you to do one thing. That's share this with somebody else. Don't just keep it to yourself. Share this with somebody else. Don't just keep it to yourself. Tonight, I want to talk about motivations and how they help you change your situation. I want to talk about motivations and how they help you change your situation. Please forgive me if I'm continuously hearing me say Goot, because that's how I know my buddy Victor Mike. I call him Goot all the time. He used to be a soldier of mine back in 2009, actually earlier than that, but 2009 when we went to Iraq. And yeah, I have to say I learned a lot from Goot. I definitely, one of the things I have to do that Goot did was that 40-day fast that you did last year.
Yeah,
maybe
no, it was 37.
37, 38, 40. I mean, I'm going to go and give you the three. Give you the three, because that's powerful. I think the most I've done up until this point was a 12-day. I did a 14-day, and then I did 14, but I wind up cutting it in between. I think it was around Father's Day. I took a temporary 24-hour pause because the person that I was actually doing the fast with wanted to take a pause for Father's Day because family was celebrating us that way, and then I went back on right after that and finished up with doing 9 or 10 days. So that's why I like to say I broke it up that way.
How are your energy levels during the fast?
They were pretty good. They were good. Unfortunately for me, and I don't know if it was the same for you, I was still going to work every day, and I work in run a shipping department at the oil company that I work at. And sometimes I'm packing boxes, sometimes I'm lifting things, sometimes I'm moving things around. And I was still doing 100 push-ups, 200 push-ups a day. I was still biking miles a day.
No, man. No wonder, shit. No, I had set myself up to where I didn't have to work for that, for those whole 40 days. So
Oh
like
yeah.
I pushed everything. Yeah, I just made it to where I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to earn any money during that time. So that was like, man, that's crazy though. Like, how many push-ups a day? 200, and then going to
Yeah.
work. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't faint and pass out. Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised too. I think that's why people keep constantly reminding me now that they know I've had knee surgery to take it easy. I guess I give off this energy that I don't know how to take it easy, and I just keep going and going like the Energizer Bunny. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna attempt to take it easy a little bit this time around. But yeah, so it went real good. My energy levels was good, but like I remember watching some of your videos and you talking about, some days just feeling great, some days feeling
Mhm.
exhausted, some days just feeling full of life, and some days wanting to sleep all day and night. So I remember checking
Yeah.
out your videos and watching and all those things. So it was interesting. I will say this, to be honest, though. After doing my fast, and I've done several since then. Like I started out with a 3-day fast, then I did a 7-day fast, then I went to the 14, and I'll continue to go up. But I realized after every time I did those fasts, when I went back to food, I almost felt disappointed. Like, oh, why did
Mhm.
I do that? Like, what did I do
Mhm.
that for?
Yeah.
You really start to learn and understand the body and how sharp your mind is and your clarity when you start to give up so much stuff and then you eat and you feel lethargic and sluggish and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
all these other things that is difficult to explain. So it was like, yeah, there's so much power in fasting that it's crazy.
I need to get back
So,
into doing that, man. I haven't done it. I haven't fasted since that last time.
oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
as
last
like I slowly got back into like eating shitty food. So I'm like, I'm having to get back on that clean
yeah,
eating. One thing I
yeah,
remember though that was very clear is how great fruit tastes. I'm like,
yeah.
why the fuck do we even eat candy? Like, why do we
Mhm.
need candy? Like, fruit is so delicious, man.
Yeah, big
Like
facts.
the taste buds got resetted so much to a point where like, yeah, it was a little bit harder to eat, like start eating meat again
Yeah. And you
or
know
bread.
what? I think for me it was it was okay. I guess I would have to say it was I don't know if I hadn't done it. Well, no, because on most of my fasts it's like I don't know, man. I just been fortunate to when I went back to eating regular food and eating regular meats and things because I don't eat a lot of meat as it is. Like I do a
Mhm.
lot of times where I go without eating meat. Like I went 4 months with no meat at all. Like no chicken,
Damn.
no fish,
So
no
what
meat.
were you eating? Just like fruits and veggies and like
Fruits,
nuts?
fruits, veggies. Well, no, I was eating everything else except meat. So I was
Oh,
still eating
okay.
pastas, I was still eating potatoes and
Mm,
things like that. Like I just cut meat completely out of my diet. And then I
interesting.
slowly started putting meat back in my life. And
And how
yeah.
do you feel during that time when you were eating everything else but meat? Because that's
Oh, I
basically
felt great.
vegetarian, right?
Yeah, I felt great. I did.
Really?
I felt great. It was almost, you don't feel as good as you do without the food, but you
Hmm.
definitely notice that there's a difference, in your body. There's a shift. There's something that's actually happening. So I had more energy again, more clarity. I felt great. I mean, just looking at my life now, I've been eating junk. Let's just be
Hmm.
honest. I've been eating more
You
junk
went back
lately.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell people, man, it's I was talking to my wife about this. I'm like, I'm at the point now I'm really ready to make that shift, to make a complete lifestyle change to where I'll probably be wiping out meat. I don't want to say forever,
Mm-hmm.
but a very long time. I could see myself eating meat once a month or something like that. And I will
Hmm.
probably only eat fish. Like I don't eat a lot of chicken as it is now. And there's just so many reasons for that. But
And
yeah.
during that time where you're like counting your calories or just like eating whenever you were hungry?
I have no clue about calorie counting. And that's now
Yeah.
that part of it. That's part of it. That's one thing I've never gotten into. I don't
Right.
count calories. I don't know how many calories I need. I pay attention to my body and how it
Hmm.
feels more so than anything. They shooting out there. You back in Iraq?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
is that on my end or your end? Hold on.
I think that was over here, but I think that was like leftover firecrackers from like 4th of July or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy though.
Usually, and it's been a while since I've done it because we took a 6-month break. I took a 6-month break. I put the show on like a 6-month break fasting from that as well. And that was really more so mental clarity for me. I don't think people take fast in those areas of their life when they separate themselves from individuals. You talk about putting yourself in a position to not have to work for 40 days and not have to do certain things. And it's like, wow, when you really start to fast and separate yourself, not only from food, but certain things that you watch on TV, certain people that you're talking to, certain people that you're listening to, what you're reading and these things, you realize the difference and the shift that you can make in your life. And it's just such a powerful thing, man. So
yeah, a lot of people when they hear talk about fasting usually think food, but it's like you said, we're always consuming something with all of our senses. Even I think the intellect is a sense too. So whatever, like you said, like whatever you're reading or listening to or watching, everything. You know what's interesting? When I was doing that fast, I actually did a kind of experiment to see what it would be like to go out like to bars and clubs while doing that. That was very interesting. It's like I felt like I was the only one there that was alive. It was weird, man. It was weird. I was like, "Whoa, bro!" I don't know. It was a trippy experience. I didn't do too much socializing because like my energy levels were like up and down, so it was a little bit tough to socialize. I feel like that and energy's a thing. So if you're already in a weakened state, and then people around you, like, oh man. It got a little rough, but yeah, I found that very interesting. A few months ago, actually, I tried the carnivore diet too. I don't know if you heard of it.
That's where you just only eat meat?
Yeah, I tried that. And that one felt great. The only downside I found to that was you get the shits for like the first week or two, man. I was like, that was rough. That was the rough part, but I think by day 28, I had already lost like 18 or 19 pounds, and I was putting on muscle. That was crazy. I was only working out like twice a week. That was the crazy part. Like some, it wasn't subtle. It was like definite muscle growth without working out. Like, so it was just like fat loss and muscle growth because all I ate was meat. So, but then again, after that, I went back to eating shitty food. I'm like, fuck. I think that's the problem with those types of experiments like fasting or just trying any kind of restrictive diet.
I think and for me, when I look at fasting, to me, I think fasting is it's a mindset and more of a lifestyle change for me. Definitely what I be looking to get out of it. Shift to the next level. Just in my relationship with God, for me, a higher spirituality, relationship with my family, relationship with myself. It's me and my wife was just talking as we was running this errand, and it was just like, some days I just get so sick and tired of people, and I love people, but people, we often say what we want to do, and how we're going to be so great. And then in the same breath, you start to blame your mom, your dad, your uncle, and the world about why life is so crazy for you. Like, make it make sense. Like, I have to, like you said, energy. I have to fast from negative energy. I am a believe, see, and most people are see, believe. Like, I believe it before I see it. It's like, it all starts in the mind. This show, I was on a ruck 3 years ago, Memorial's Day. I was rucking, like doing one of my 8-mile rucks, and I stopped, and God just started talking to me like, this is what I want you to do. And I start seeing what I'm actually doing right now. Like, oh, it's gonna be called grunt talk. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And now 3 years later, although we've had some obstacles, some up and downs, is like, wow, this was something that I thought, that I believe was possible before I ever even seen it come to fruition. And now it's actually happening. You know what I'm saying? So for me, when I fast, it's always about digging in deeper and just believing in my gifts, my talents, my strengths, and just that inner spirituality, that inner power, whatever individual may call it for themselves, God, Buddha, Allah, like that's between them and that person. But I believe we all know that there's something greater than ourselves that gives us the energy and drive that we have to go. And for me, I'm just trying to flush away a lot of the negativity and then tap into that.
That's a good word, like flushing it away. That's kind of flushing it away, purging it. Sounds good. I have a quick question for you because you
Yeah.
seem like you got a pretty good grasp on this. How do you discern when you're in alignment with the will of the Most High and when you're not? That's
Well,
one I kind of been struggling with. I'm like, because I asked to do the will of the Most High, but then I'm not always like, it's not always clear, you know. So I
for
just
me,
got
it's
kind of like discernment. Ask for discernment, huh?
no. For me, I think for me, it's very simple. Is there's no confusion. Like God is
Mm,
not the author of confusion, and if it doesn't, if it's there's no confusion, and I'm at peace about it in my spirit. So if I'm not
mm,
at peace, and if I'm going back and forth whether I should or shouldn't, then I know it's not time for me to move on it yet. I'm not at peace and I'm confused, and I don't think God
wow.
does that. If God gives you a word and it's something that He wants you to do, again, you are in alignment when you did the 40-day fast, the
Yeah.
37, however you want to look at it, and you knew, okay, in order for me to do this the way I want to do it, there's some things that I need to put in place. And the Most High gave you that. Hey, get your finances right. Because in order to sit at home for 40 days, you're going to have your finances right. Eat whatever you're going to need to eat and empty out the refrigerator or whatever you're going to have to do so you're not tempted. You know,
Yeah,
so you're
I'm gonna
not
have to write
tempted.
that one
Like,
down. I'm gonna have to write.
yeah, so it's definitely being it's no confusion and you at peace about the decision you made. A lot of times we go back and forth. It's kind of like, us guys being in the military. And I'll just say this, as y'all can see on the ticker tape down below, tonight is what are your motivations? And that's what we're going to be talking about. We'll just let the conversation build from there. And when I talk about motivations, then I'll get back to what me and Goot was talking about. There's the three types of motivation I'm talking about: extrinsic, intrinsic, and transcendent. Extrinsic motivation, which is the external things that motivate us: cars, houses, clothes, things of that, things outside of you. Intrinsic motivations, which is based on an innate need for competence and self-determination. Fasting, the Most High, your God, your spirit, what you want for you. And transcendent motivation being meaning of life lived to benefit others. So this would be transcendent motivation. I love people. I love inspiring people. I love helping people. I love giving back to people in some shape, form, or fashion to push them to be the better version of themselves. So that's what we'll be talking about tonight in some capacity. And in all honesty, I feel like we've already started that, talking about why we fasted and what was the point and what we kind of got out of it. And so we'll just dig deep down into there and just talking about certain motivations and how they helped us in life. So, well, like I was saying, with that being said, just being at a place of peace. Like, I just had knee surgery, right? So 10 years ago when I was 36, I went to the doctor and they told me I had the knees of a 60-year-old. I'm like, oh, okay. Right. So, hey, you reminded me of what's his name? Like everybody made fun of when Hart asked Don Cheeto how old he was. 57.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. That's a wake-up call right there, man.
Yeah. And my doctor was real with me. Like, what have you been doing? And at that point in time, it was before I was getting out of the military. I was probably about 13, 14 years in then. And, I had played football from Pop Warner through high school and things of that nature. And he just was honest, like, yo, this is just wear and tear. This is just wear and tear. This is what you have done for the life you have lived. But at 36 years old, you're younger than we want you to be in order to do a knee surgery. So we want to wait till you're 50. And I went on a deployment after that. That's when I went to Egypt in 2014. I started rucking. I rucked like 38 days. And in those 38 days, I was putting in over 100 miles a week rucking. I just was living life. I was doing everything. So rewind April the 2nd of this year, I went to play airsoft for my birthday with my son and some friends. And I was out there like I was back in the field, and I was running and gunning and doing what I do. And my knee did what it does too. It swole up on me. It swole up. So when I went to the doctor, I figured I could just go have it scoped again like I did 10 years ago. And they're like, nah, you need to go ahead and have this happen. And for me, it was an easy decision to make. I was already at peace because I had been talking to God, like, whenever the time is for me to do it, then I'm just going to do it so I can continue to move on in life. And so and I told the doctor, I'm like, okay, what are my options? And he said, you can do injections. Well, how long will I do injections? And that's where they shoot your knee up, with a false cartilage, and hopefully that works for you to stop the inflammation. They're like, well, you do this for the next 3, 4, or 5 years, but it's just only delaying the inevitable. You still are going to have to replace the knee. So I said, well, we're not going to do all that. Let's just go and get this out the way now while I'm 46 and I feel young and I'm still healthy and I'm still walking and biking. I can recover that much faster. So my motivation was more definitely intrinsic, than it was extrinsic of what was going on outside of me. It was definitely more of an internal thing and where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. So that's how I was able to make a lot of the decisions I made, because I prayed about it and then I had peace and there was no confusion in it at all.
And how'd your knee feel after the surgery? Was it still was it a lot better, like noticeably, or
I don't know yet. I don't know right now. It's hurting like a son of a gun, to be honest with you.
You see,
I just did it on Monday.
Oh shit! You just that's why you were in the hospital. I was wondering. I didn't get a chance to actually go through the video.
I just did it on Monday.
Oh yeah, that's too soon to tell, man.
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why I haven't because I've been wanting to push the body more, but I haven't done it yet because financially I'm not in a place where I can afford that type of surgery or anything like that, So yeah. Yeah, but man, there's the desire is definitely there to want to push the limits,
So I was talking to my wife, and hey, y'all have to just tune in and enjoy the show. Share with somebody it's gonna be good, and we doing speak grunt. We just talking. We'll give you some Jews as we going through. I was talking to my wife, and of course, insurance, there's a copay. And I just started a job. I'm probably about a year in or something like that. And so I hadn't met my quota for my copay yet and my deductible. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see what my copay going to be. And I'm thinking it's going to be maybe $1,500-$1,600. Not a big deal. And they were like, no, it's going to be $3,500. I'm like, oh my God, do I got to pay this all at once? And they're like, no, you could do it on a month-to-month program. So I'm like, all right, cool. I could do that. So I'm like, I wonder what the cost was for my knee surgery for my insurance company. So when I went to the doctor that past Monday morning, to start the process, and they give you the paperwork to sign and everything, my insurance company paid $58,000 for my knee replacement surgery. And what the lady informed me was, if you would have paid for this out of pocket for you, it would have probably been closer to $70,000, because what you don't see is all the discounts and breaks that your insurance company is getting. So even with their discounts and breaks, it was still $58,000. So when you look at it like that, you're like, oh my God.
Okay, I'm glad I made the right decision to not try to do that shit yet, man. Oh, there's no way I would have been able to pay that, man.
Nah. Because then definitely, yeah.
There's like a nice Tesla right there.
Yeah, I mean, that $60,000, man, that's double some people's yearly pay. And just in all honesty, it's triple for some. And for guys like you and me that was in the military, and if you've been in the military before, you notice most people that's on active duty, you pretty much qualify for assistance. You qualify for a bridge card. So that lets you know you're not making the type of money that you think you're going to make when you're in the military. It's just some of the perks and the benefits that may come with it, which outside of the military in the civilian sector is not a lot. You realize and you learn it's not a lot. So while you're in and you're not paying for uniforms and you're not paying for all your food and certain things, then it looks like you're doing well. But once you get out, it doesn't happen that way. You know what I'm saying?
Then you got the real world, the civilian expenses,
Yeah.
Rent, bills, cars, everything.
Absolutely. Well, it don't look like we gonna have Whiskey Charlie tonight. He might be passed out in his jacuzzi. Yeah, he had to. When I talked to him earlier after I sent you guys the information about pushing the time back, he was saying, he was sitting back, relaxing in the jacuzzi, just waiting, waiting for the time. And last week when we spoke, I sent him a message and I'm like, all right, where's Whiskey Charlie? And he had just came back from the beach with his family. And he was like, yeah, man, I was sitting there. I was sitting down on the patio waiting for the show to start, and I passed out sleep. So I figured he probably passed out sleep again.
Boy stays busy, man.
Yeah, he does. He does. And you know what? Thinking about that again, for me, I think Whiskey Charlie is so busy because it is an extrinsic, it's an outside motivation, which probably is internal for him in a sense of outside in a sense of the things that I want to do and the things that I want to provide for my family, the things that I want them to have. The internal motivation in that is seeing himself doing better. Like you see, he's working out again. He's always building something. And I think the transcendent motivation in that, it inspires other people. Like I see some of the things that Whiskey Charlie does. So, it's very interesting what happens in life. And let me ask you this question. What motivated you even to think about doing a 40-day fast? And also, was that the first fast that you had ever done, or did you build up to it, or you just jumped straight into a 40-day?
No, it wasn't the first one I've done. Kind of like you, I also started I started with intermittent fasting, actually. Like 12 on, 12 off. And then, that slowly became less and less. And then I did a day, 2 days, 3 days, 7 days. And I think once I did 7 days, I was like, okay, I got a pretty good handle on this. But this was over the course of about probably like 4 years, I want to say. 4 or 5 years. Yeah. When I started experimenting with fasting. So I did not jump right into it. I know some people can, probably they've done it, but yeah, my motivation was to see what that would be like what are the benefits of that, like spiritually speaking, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I did a lot of research on it, and I've heard people experiencing a bunch of different benefits, and I think an added benefit is just to seeing what you're capable of, and so, yeah, those were my motivations. I guess it was a little bit of everything, a little bit of it. Well, there was no money involved, but the external, I guess, kind of would be partly the body itself, physically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my motivations for that.
And you know what? It's funny that you say that, because looking at you, I remember when I first met you, you definitely you probably was carrying more weight. And I remember during our time, I'm not saying that Vic was a fat guy. Just all I
was definitely fat, man. I was definitely not up to military standards, man. Definitely not, man. Definitely not. And that's actually one of the things that this is what's weird for me is that one of the things that it kind of hit me late, and after already after I was already discharged from the military was for some reason the Army values came back to me, and I like the leadership acronym, and that came back to me. Although I will say this whole like past year or two, I actually ended up hitting a downward spiral. Like shit got really dark for a minute, and whenever y'all send me that message like to get on here, like I'm on my way out. I'm on my way out that downward spiral. So that was very interesting for me, because I was actually, and what I noticed was what I stopped doing, and that made me realize that was one of the things that caused that downward spiral. So I had stopped praying, I had stopped meditating, I had stopped worrying about like my own mental, emotional, and physical well-being. I just stopped, and I was like, wow, man. And before that, everything was going great, Before that, when I had all that on point, my finances were looking good. Physically, mentally, emotionally, everything was looking good. But then I stopped, and and I didn't realize that. So it was so weird. I didn't realize I was slowly like not doing the things that I knew I should be doing, and I slowly stopped discarding them, and I started doing more bad things, And when I realized that, I was like, man, I got to snap out of it. So I let me jump back on. And so one of my prayers was actually that, like, let me stay in alignment with your will. That's one of them. And I think this is probably a good example of being in alignment because, like you said, there's no confusion, right? And you feel peace while doing with, and I feel pretty good doing with like, there's no way I can see this being a bad thing. Whereas other things where, like you said, like you have to, if there's doubt, that's probably not it, or it may not be the right time yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. That definitely makes perfect sense. And it's so funny, me, alignment and timing is everything. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. It was like, I had never, after Shooter, Killer Wolf was no longer on the show. Like I had never even thought about bringing anybody else on. I remember telling Whiskey Charlie it's just gonna be me and you. And then after that, you know, I went into this 6.5 month break, and it was really sort of like what you said. I found myself slipping, but I found myself slipping in a different way. Like during social media, converting in 2017 to start doing the whole Mr. Peen motivational speaking and tapping into that realm. That was definitely a intrinsic motivation. And then it turned into a transcendent motivation where I wanted to help other people. And that transcendent motivation, because of who I am as a person, Coach Talk being a high I, a person that's led more so by emotions and things like that, how I move in energy of the people and how I get fed. That transcendent motivation almost became, it was my crutch. It became crippling. It became what I needed. Now Instagram and all, babe, you cool? My wife trying to sneak in the office and get her computer, like she low crawling on the floor. That transcendent motivation almost became my crutch because I was so busy looking to give to the people that I wasn't giving to me anymore. And then I start to suffer. My family start to suffer based on my motivations being for someone else other than my motivations being internally for myself, right? So we took that break, and during that time, taking that break, that was the reason why I took that break. I often say this, you have to disconnect from this disconnected world. And when I leave social media, that's my thing. I'm unplugging from the matrix for real, and then back internal, reading, studying, and building myself up. And it was just, you know, when we came back on a couple of weeks ago, I don't know what it was, and we were still kind of starting out slow. And I don't know if it was your picture or something that came, like a message or something came across my feed. And it really was a spontaneous thought that came to my mind, but it was a spontaneous thought that was no confusion and it was peace. I'm like, Goop needed to be on the show. I wonder if Goop would be interested. So whether he was going to be on the show or not, that wasn't my worry. My focus was asking the question and talking to Whiskey Charlie about it and seeing what he thought about it. And it was just like, once I asked the question and I put it out there, and Whiskey Charlie's like, yeah, that would be great. I was so at peace with it because I felt like I know who you are as a person. Like, I respect you as a person. I've been watching you over the period of time since we got out of the military. And it was just like, oh, this is a no-brainer. Like, to me, this is a no-brainer. Like, my motivation now is definitely intrinsic, but at the same time transcendent, because I know this man is a wealth of knowledge, and I know people can be blessed by what he brings to the table. Now, I can't control what that individual is going to do, but I can ask. And for you to say that, like, whether it was last year or this year, us asking you about being on the show, and you was just like, man, that was a time where I felt myself kind of slipping, and then that question kind of came out, and it was just like, oh, wow, okay, maybe timing is everything. So sometimes motivations that we have, they happen at the right time. We just don't understand the time that it's happening. Because during that 6 months I was off, I felt bad. And my transcendent motivation was like, oh, what the people gonna think? What they gonna think? Are they gonna come when we come back? And then I had to remind myself, why did you start doing this? I started doing this because it blessed me to be able to just speak about what I've been through and what I had overcame, and whoever it'll help. Now you get to the, let's say 2019, 2020. I really got on Instagram 2017 with Mr. Peen. When the pandemic came, it was like social media switched. It was you was on there for fun, having a good time. Now it's like if you ain't making money, if you ain't got a business, why you on social media? If you ain't inspiring people, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't get into it for all that. I didn't get into it for all that. But my energy being who I was, I let that get the best of me because I was worried about what other people thought. So I had to take that step back. I had to separate myself as much as I would be lying to say that, again, my energy, I'm naturally a high energetic person, but I move in what we would call as a flight attendant. Coaches talk, meaning more so how you deal with people. Like my energy is for people first, task, and getting the job done second. I get energy being around people. That's my gift. And it could also be your curse because you can find yourself wanting to do things for others and not doing things for you to be successful the way you want, the way you need to be. So I said all that to say this. It was like, it wasn't by default that I asked you this, and it wasn't just like, oh yeah, I went through a number of people and oh, this guy worked. It was just like, no, God put it on my spirit that time, that day, that moment. And it ain't like I didn't know who you was. I hadn't seen other videos and things that you've done. It was just like something I seen that day and that moment was like, yep, this is it. This is what we need to move to the next step. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to see what happens. And then you just go from there. And it was just like, I just continued to build from that and see what happens. And
so
here we are.
So whenever you took that 6-month break from social media and everything to gather yourself back, did you cut out all social media? Did you completely just stop logging on?
Yeah, I logged out. I logged out of Facebook. Actually, even now to this day, I to be honest with you, I almost feel if I'm on Facebook or Instagram for too long, it's almost like going back to food. It's almost sickening feeling. I'm only on here I'm here to give a message and then remove myself. Then I'll go back on in a couple days, check and see if there's anybody I need to respond to, reply to, because I don't want to seem like I'm a jerk. Like I don't respond to people or anything like that. So I go back on and I reply. So yeah, I definitely, even to this day still, when we get off of this call, I'll log out of Facebook. Actually, I don't even think I'm logged into Facebook. I just log into Facebook so I can send out the link and then I log out of Facebook. Like my video that I did that night at the hospital, I intentionally did it at 11 something at night because I didn't want to have to go back and forth with people. I did the video and I logged out.
Damn. Man, that requires a lot of self-control right there, man. What was I going to say? Yeah, I found myself on because one of the ones that pulled me back was TikTok. Like, it's so interesting. And like, it seems like it has more actual news than the news.
Oh, absolutely.
But then there's that trap of, that dopamine spike, like that continuous dopamine spike. And like, I found myself scrolling it for hours until I realized, hey man, this is like a drug. That's crazy. This is crazy, man. So yeah,
my new hi-hat became YouTube Shorts. I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on TikTok, but I'm like, I go on YouTube. I watch motivational videos. I'm putting videos, like I'm learning stuff. Yeah. And then it's like, you click this one. You want to learn something about how to grow a pineapple. And you're like, well, how the hell did I get to pineapples and swingers in Mexico? Like, I just fell down this rabbit hole. You know what I'm saying?
It's the most random rabbit hole, man. It's like, how to grow your own pineapple, swingers, what?
Yeah, and that's you know what? To me, I kind of feel like that's what happens with social media. You go for one thing just to check something out, and like you said, now you're scrolling and you don't control what's in your feed, but something hits that spike of dopamine that grabs your attention, a clickbait, a heading or something like that, and before you know it, you just down this rabbit hole of I don't know where.
You know, one thing that I realized that was a little bit crazy when I started really getting into self-improvement and reading all these books, I would start implementing everything I learned, but then I noticed there was a point in time where I was reading, I think I was using it as a distraction from taking action.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even applying all the knowledge that I've gained. So it was just like this big head. I got big headed with it, you know, and I stopped applying everything. And that I realized that could also be a trap. And I found another one that was a trap, and it's actually called spiritual bypass. And it's when people fall into the trap of becoming what they identify as spiritual. They start looking into manifesting and God, which is good, but if you're just like reading, and it could also be a distraction from, you know, actually applying everything that we've learned. And I found myself in that trap too, which is crazy, because even at that point, sometimes even like reading holy books can be a distraction. That was a real crazy one for me, man. I was like, wow, the illusion is powerful. Like I kind of gained a respect for the ego, or whatever it is you want to call it, that keeps us distracted. It's like, man, that ego or whatever is more intelligent than I am, man. So that's and I think that's where you know, giving your will to the Most High is like surrender, you know. And what I found is like it's kind of a balance between discipline and surrender, you know.
I like to call it getting high. I like to ask people I like to ask people, so what do you enjoy getting high on? Because just like in point in time in my life, I was doing alcohol like crazy. There was a point in time in my life where I was doing marijuana, and there was a point in time in my life.
I still smoke weed sometimes, man.
Yeah. Well, my job won't allow me to. But then also, even like you said, like a spiritual bypass, but I even look at that from a spiritual sense. Like a lot of people get high off of church. Like you, and why I say that is what you were talking about. You're just gathering information. You're at an information overload, but you want to say, I read these 13, 14, 15 books, but you didn't apply any of them. Right. And the Bible even says faith without work is dead. So
boom, there it is.
If you got all this faith, you believe in God and this, that, and third, but you not working, then what we really talking about? Oh, you just getting high. And I found myself doing that even with motivation. Like Eric Thomas is my guy. That's who I got certified with through being a coach. I'm an extreme execution coach, professional development. And I would find myself getting high, Eric Thomas, TD Jakes, Joe Osteen, like all this inspiration just to get me up, get me going, you know, my own self. And then it's like, oh, but you're not applying none of this stuff. You're spending more time listening to these things, but you're not walking these things out. So I separated myself from that. Like no more motivation. Only motivation I'm going to listen to is Mr. Ping, what I put out. And I start studying God. And I'm like, well, God, what do you want me to do? He was like, study to show thyself approved. I'm like, well, study what? Study my word and study yourself. That's all you need to focus on. So when I started to study myself and I started taking this word and break it down for my own life, it was like, oh, wow, people just getting high. This is the next drug to remove me from what I really need to do and give me something to say, oh, this is what I'm doing, but I'm not really doing anything. Or as Denzel would say, don't confuse work with progress. Right. You reading, but you ain't progress nowhere.
I can tell you that's another way when we feel like we've done something in our mind. That's one of the I would say downsides of this from what I've learned from the manifestation people. It's like you make yourself believe that it already happened. So if you make yourself believe that it already happened, you're not going to do it because in your mind you already did it. You know, and that was such a crazy trap. You know, it's a trap, and that's so crazy because, like, okay, and it actually works different. It's like you can, in a sense, pump yourself up, but there has to be that action combined with it. And I think a lot of times I found myself stopping right before I made the action. So I would just like hype myself up, like you were saying. You know, you're getting yourself high again, but without the action. And I think a part of it is like it's kind of like working out. You don't always like want to go work out, but you always feel good about yourself after working out. You know?
Absolutely. That's one thing I would often say. You can never beat the weights. You can never beat the weights. Like you gonna pass out before they give up on you. You know? So and again, that same thing, like with motivation. I had to, when I get on my videos and I realize motivation is what it is. Motivation, a speech, a song, a action that gets a person dopamine up, adrenaline going, flowing, ready to run through a wall. You just motivated to do something. It's like getting ready to go to the range or getting ready to go to Iraq or something like that. The conversations you're having, the movies you're watching, the things you're doing, you're motivating yourself and getting yourself amped up to take on this next challenge, this next step. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then it was like, oh, wow. So I got the motivation. And then it was like, okay, well, what about the inspiration? Well, the inspiration comes from the things that I've seen in people's life, the stories or the things that they walk through. And it was like, okay, well, my inspiration comes from the things that's happened in my life. And I realized, oh, I can motivate people and I can inspire people. But that third one that I was missing, as I like to say at the end now, transformation. Like my mission is to assist in your transformation, motivate, inspire, hopefully assist in transforming. And in order to be transformed, you have to do work. Like you cannot just jump on here and listen to what we talking about. If you don't do any work, you don't change. It's like dealing with PTSD. Now, when I hear people say I got PTSD, it's like it's almost something like I don't even want to talk about that, because when I heard about PTSD, it was a thing of the military. Soldiers that went to war struggled or suffered with PTSD. Now in society, you had a car accident, people talking about PTSD. You know what I'm saying? So what is your motivation and your inspiration to transform yourself to get outside of this? Because I meet people now and they wouldn't believe I did 15 years in the military, let alone in the infantry, and I've been to combat. Your energy don't show that. Your persona of who you are doesn't show that. You're so different than other people that I meet. And I said it's because when I left Iraq, it came a point in time in my life where I decided to mentally leave Iraq to get back on track. So I had to.
That's the whole like Jesus says, it's like whoever clings on to his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And that's one thing I found, like there's something to be said about consistency. But for example, in your case, you went with your intuition, it seems, and you took your 6 months off, and then you come back with higher quality content, because you can definitely tell you've been putting in work here. And even from last time, it's crazy to see you're talking about transformation. And I think one of the things that would help somebody transform is it would be a byproduct of your own transformation. And that's what I've seen in your communication. It seems more effortless from like all the other times. Like, that's crazy. Like I think you can tell you've been putting in work, because it's almost like it's inspiring me in a way, because I've been trying to do this. It almost feels like getting out of your own way. You know, that's the feeling. It feels like you get out and you're doing it well. So thank you. And it's noticeable, you know, and that's one of my goals, to just be able to get out of my way more often, you know, more often, just so you can just express what's truly in there, instead of like expressing the whole negativity, which eventually comes out in like self-destructive behavior, you know?
Yeah, and you already on the right track, because you're doing one of the most difficult things there is to do. And when you do fasting, and people look at it as just giving up food or giving up something. No. What fasting is taking ownership, to discipline myself, to tell my body and my mind, I'm in control, not you. Like and if you don't do that, then the body naturally goes on to autopilot. Dr. Bruce Lipton talked about how the subconscious mind is programmed between the ages of 0 to 7. And that program for most individuals is how they live out the next 90% of their life. So you're living your life based on something that happened in the first 7 years of your life. Damn. Well, in those first 7 years of your life, you had no control. You didn't get the opportunity to pour into you what you thought was what you thought was good. Your name was given to you. Where you live was given to you to a certain degree. What you ate, what you like was given to you. What you should do for work was given to you. And now, as you getting older in this society, in this country of America, although we say we're free, you still have all these restrictions on you based on the indoctrination and the structure that was poured into your mind.
Like
So you have
like, yeah, you're not really free
no,
until you completely deprogram yourself. Like, and
absolutely.
until then, you're still a slave to your program beliefs that were instilled on you by either your parents, friends, society, school, media, all that. And it's so hard. So how would you go about unrooting something that deep that was instilled from those ages? Because at some point you're like, okay, well, I can do this. It's like the layers, you start off at the top layers and like, okay, it's easier to unroot something that was instilled, say, when I was 28 versus something that's so much deeper, like from 0 to 7. And for me, for example, one of the things that I have a real hard time with is like lust, because one of those things that was programmed from a very early age. One of the first things that I remember seeing was a lot of porn everywhere. That's one of the, and I'd go around, and where I lived, there was a lot of abandoned houses, and you just walk in there just exploring, being a kid, but then you get exposed to these things, and so it's like those images just get ingrained in your subconscious, like you were saying that Bruce Lipton said, like it's from ages 0 to 6 or 0 to 7.
0 to 7.
Well, how would you go about unrooting, man? Because those are some of the deep roots. And I do my best to like try to find the good that's also deep rooted in there, because it's not all bad. There was also a lot of good things that happened, but those negative things can also have like a big impact once you're an adult, because you have a bigger impact as an adult than you do as a child. So it's like, man, that requires a lot of effort. And so how would you go about unrooting something that deep?
So for me, you have to ask yourself questions like, what do you really want? And I'm an open book. I'm a very transparent person. I was a cheater all my life. I was only faithful to me and my penis. Like that was just it. I was only faithful to me and my man parts. And it was based on the things that I had seen when I was young, and the things that I was taught, and the things that I read, and the things that I experienced, and things of that nature. And so when it came to definitely like, because of course I watched all the porn and all the masturbation and all these things, you know what I'm saying? Like all these things. And I had to start to ask myself in all honesty, like, what is it that I really want? And then when I'm feeling this way, what do I want out of this? What am I looking to get out of this? Do I just want that satisfaction, that euphoric feeling of ejaculating? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, absolutely. Do I? And no offense, biologically as men, the way our DNA is made up, we are designed to want to release those seeds. No offense. Men don't want to admit this. We're a lot closer than dogs than what we think we are.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Like
it's a very powerful motivator.
Absolutely.
That's a tough one to get under control.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Once you can master, as a man, once you can master your sexual energy, you can master anything.
That's dangerous.
Now, here's what you do.
Say that one's harder than fasting, than the food fasting.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's harder because we tell ourselves it's harder. Like I was able to, here's what I told myself. So the whole time I was in Iraq, both tours, I didn't have sex with anybody. And people like, was in Iraq, you was at war. No. Don't get it twisted. It's plenty of people, soldiers overseas having sex, getting it in. It's available if you want to make it happen. And what I realized was, okay, I don't have a problem going without sex. I have a problem controlling myself to go without sex. If I can go without sex for 9 months in another country, I can go without sex for 9 months in my own country. It was available over there. It's available here. Not as readily available in Iraq as it is in America. But here's the thing. It's all about choice. Now, do I choose to help myself get better? You know how it go. If I do this one day, I can do this 2 days. If I do this 2 days, I can do this 3 days. It's the compound interest effect. And I think what it really boils down to, there's no easy answer or no straight answer for anybody. It just comes with a discipline of telling yourself no, and also removing yourself from those things. So again, my social media. If you on YouTube and you're studying how to build a motor, YouTube is only going to feed you how to build the motor. But the minute you click on Big Booty Judy shaking, that just opened back up that gate. And now YouTube is going to feed that gate. Now you've weakened yourself and put yourself in a position to go back into what you do not want to do. So really for me, what it was on my wall over there, I constantly have affirmations. I was reading them 2 and 3 times a day. I had a schedule. I had a plan. I always knew what I was going to be doing for the day. And nothing in that day was talking about, I'm going to go have sex or I'm going to go do this. Don't get it twisted. You still driving down the street and you still seeing attractive women. And you still seeing half-naked women and things like that going on. But if my focal point is, okay, I'm driving to school. I know we got a quiz coming up. Did I remember this? Did I study that? Or I'm listening to something else. It's that much easier for me to deflect that energy and then put it somewhere else. And then again, it's like Les Brown say, for every one negative thought, for every negative thought, it takes 16 positive thoughts or images to change that one negative thought.
Really?
Yeah,
that actually makes sense though, because I heard I think Dr. Jordan Peterson said, he says we have a higher capacity towards negative emotion, so it's easier for us to fall into negativity than it is to maintain positivity.
Yeah,
you know? And I think that whole like it's asking yourself what you want. It's a great tool to focus, and I think that whole like depending on what you were primarily exposed to in a negative way as a child is what you're probably going to be dealing with most. And what I'm seeing right now, like, I think you're probably going to have the hardest time when you're closest to getting rid of it. You know,
I like to tell myself the hardest part about college is the intro. That's why it's an introductory class. It's the hardest part about building a home is laying a foundation.
Right.
The foundation is everything. Like, once you get the foundation solid, then you can build up on top of that. And as men, we have to understand that we are the prize just as much as a woman is the prize. And if you can, I'm going to say this, and I don't know if women find it to be true, and this no homo, as the people say, like, men are sexier than they know, and you're even more sexy when you can control your physical urges.
Right.
Like,
and
when
and what's crazy is that
and women want you more when you can control yourself.
Yes. and here's why. Like, that makes so much sense, because women are naturally attracted to a dominant man. And what is more powerful than being dominant over your own thoughts and emotions? You know, because if you could like that would show like probably the highest degree of dominance, of capacity for dominance. Because that's the toughest thing, man. Like, I remember I was reading this Hindu scripture book, the Bhagavad Gita, and God was telling this warrior king, you know, about controlling your thoughts. And he goes, how can I control my thoughts? To me, that seems like it would be harder than controlling the wind. You know, and that's such a good analogy for it, because that's kind of what it feels like, you know, like being disciplined of mind and controlling your thoughts. And the way I see it is kind of like a process of irrigation. It's like saying, well, you're going to have thoughts regardless. Thoughts happen to you. You're always going to be, so might as well guide them in a direction that you really want, instead of just like letting them run loose and chaotic. And like you were saying, men are the prize and so are the women. And I think, what was it? In Proverbs, he says, he who finds a wife finds a treasure, you know? So that's definitely true. But at the same time, I also think that, like, it's kind of obvious to me that men and women play different roles, you know? I mean,
absolutely.
One way, like one of the most obvious ways that I can express this is like, look at the physical bodies that we inhabit, even our genitalia, you know, our bone density and structure and everything. We're physically different. And since we're physically different and the brain is connected to the body and the mind and body are one, then the way we're going to think is going to be different. Our attraction triggers are going to be different. The way we express ourselves is going to be different. It's completely, but it's also complementary, you know, unless balance.
and you know, another thing I realized, to be honest, like, I've had a lot of sex in my life, I would like to say. Nice. I've only had great sex, amazing sex, maybe 5 times in my life. And why do I say 5 times? Because it was those times where I was really emotionally connected with my wife, where I understood, oh, this ain't about a physical thing. Like, this isn't a physical thing at all. And when you get to the point to where you understand that sex is so much more than a transfer of bodily fluids and sweating and humping and exercising, then you're like, okay, I want to reserve this for the right individual. And as men, you have to, because again, biologically, as you get older, your man part start to work less sooner than the woman's body part start to work.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we hitting our peak in our 20s and they hitting their peak in their 40s. There's a reason and there's a difference, because in our 40s we've slowed down a bit. We now a little bit more emotionally connected, and we can give to our wife that emotional connection they need. Sex ain't just physical for women. For women, that's why it's such a unbalanced. That's why it's probably such an unbalanced look when we talk about sex. It's known for men to possibly have multiple partners or a cheat or do whatever. Oh, look at old boy, he got a bunch of them. He a player, he the man. Now, if a woman go out and do that, then of course she a hoe, she everything else. Why? Because most people look at women as, when they do something with somebody, it's because I'm emotionally connected to you. And when I'm emotionally connected to you as a man, if my significant other cheats with another man, in my mind, I'm not thinking about physically whether he was better than me. I'm thinking about, okay, what has he done to my wife emotionally that she sees something in him that made her give herself to him? You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, okay. Once you start to realize and break this thing down and you understand the power that you possess in it and what you're able to do with it, then you're really able to change the outcome of your life. And when you don't want it is when people want to give it to you. Why? Because it's something that you bring to the table that they want to be a part of, especially for women, like you said earlier, that wants to deal with a man that's in control, who's disciplined. It's so much easier to deal with that individual than the guy that's all over the place.
It's very chaotic and unstable.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the things that you said, it was for example, like if a woman cheats, like she cheats for real. Like there's emotions involved. Like for a guy, I'm not giving like guys excuses to cheat either.
No.
When we cheat, is most of the time, because I know maybe some guys get their emotions involved too, but for the most part, they were just horny. They just had to get one out. You know, it was like they still can go home and be in love with their woman. But if a woman cheats, she's emotionally checked out. And another thing that I remember you just said, like when a guy can get a bunch of girls he's seen as a player, and then like when a girl gets like fucks a lot of dudes, she's a hoe, right? And I think part of the reason is like the way we as humans value what is difficult. And for a guy, it's not a simple task to go around and just get laid by any girl you want.
No,
that's very challenging, and every man knows that. And that's why, like, when you see your boy and you're like, oh shit, go get it, dog, you know. But if a girl does it, I'm like, well, it's not really respectable, because that's easy. Like, you could be a 2 and go to a club and you get it from whatever guy, you know. Now, what's more difficult in the woman's sphere would be to maintain your sexual impulses, like to not do that. That's more respectable because of how easy it is for you to do that. Like now, for a man, say for example, like you don't really respect him, all he does is watch porn and fuck prostitutes, because that's easy, you know. But
it would be like for a man, cheating would be an extrinsic motivation. For a woman, it would be an intrinsic. It's something that she's looking to fulfill within. Men, we're physical. Extrinsically, I see, woo-wee, she got a fat one, boy. I know I could do some things with that. All you're doing is doing that physical exercise, because most men, whether they want to admit this or not, after that exercise is over, I'm not looking to stay and lay and cuddle. I'm out. I holler at you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I will say I'm a cuddler.
Well, no, not like that.
I won't stay and cuddle, but I won't be like, then whenever that conversation goes, so what are we? I'm like, well, we're spiritual beings in the physical body.
Absolutely. But for a woman, I believe, and when she makes that step, intrinsically she's thinking, okay, it's going to be so much more. She's probably already seen the marriage. She's probably already seen the kids. She's probably already seen introducing you to my friends and my family. But to a man, all he's seen is how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to go back and tell my homeboys, whatever, because he doesn't have control over that part of his life. He's more extrinsically motivated than he is intrinsically motivated. And men that's intrinsically motivated and they're self-fulfilled, they know for them, like, sex is the lowest tier on a totem pole. It's like reading a book, The Way of the Superior Man. If you talk to most men and you ask them to choose between love and finding a purpose in life, most real men are gonna say, I want to discover my purpose in life. I want to go get my purpose in life because I have a purpose and I'm created to live out that purpose. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
you feel the best.
That's when you feel the best. That's when you feel the best. So
you're more capable.
It's very interesting how motivations play a part in our life, and our motivations are affected as well as affected by the environment and the people we surround ourselves in. If, like you said, your neighborhood, you could have had abandoned houses, you walk up in there, you see whatever. My neighborhood growing up, West Side Detroit, same thing. And you see people walking around half naked and this, that, and the third. Now, if I'd have grew up in Amish country and people wearing long dresses and I see them building and doing things, my motivation probably not just going to be sex. My motivation is probably to be building for my family, to get my own land. I have intrinsic motivation to become the type of individuals that I see, as opposed to the extrinsic motivation to do what I see the individuals around me doing.
Yeah, because you learn from your environment. Yeah, definitely. And one thing that I've learned about the Amish people that I find interesting is, like, they stick to their traditional values, which I think is fantastic, and it seems to provide for very healthy human beings. But at the same time, they don't restrict their children to only staying in their community. Like, they give them a period of time to where they allow them to go out into the real world. To explore all this that we have going on, like regular society. And so they can see for themselves, like, so they can see the difference. I'm like, well, what do you think of it? And like, usually I haven't heard of any of them be like, you know what, I want to stay out there. Most of the time they go back to their community. Like,
because that great foundation was laid. Like, there again, and here in North America, most people, Christianity, believe in God and the devil in some shape, form, or fashion. You believe in heaven and hell. You believe you're gonna die, you're gonna go somewhere else, whether that is I can't think of the word right now. You're gonna die, you're gonna go to heaven or hell, one of the two. That's what we may think here in this country and what we believe. But when you have a foundation that life is so much more than just partying and buying things, it's about leaving a legacy and leaving something behind. Now, when you're built up with that foundation and then you go out here and you see 90% of the world have no real foundation and not living none of that, that's fun. That's great. Yeah, that's fun. This is cool for a while. But eventually I won't go home. I tell people this all the time, man. When I get upset sometimes, and it ain't that often, or when I'm just having a moment, I feel like I got anger, aggression. I'm like, woo-wee. I wish I could pick up the phone and be like, yo, I'm ready. I want to go on a 3-week deployment to Iraq. I want to go over here, tear up some stuff, but then I want to go back home to my comfortable house. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to stay here. I just want to go here and have a little fun and get out some of this aggression. And that may be what happens with some of the individuals in the Amish community. We feel like we're missing out on something that we are not a part of. And then you become a part of it and realize, oh, I wasn't missing nothing. I wasn't missing nothing at all.
Do you think, like, from that example, do you think if you were to be invited or be allowed to be in the Amish community for a few years, do you think you would want to come back to our type of society, or do you think you would want to stay there?
I don't know. I would be 50-50, to be honest with you, because I enjoy people and I like people so much. And not to say it's people not around and I'm so spontaneous and want to do different things. It would take, it's like I tell my wife, I'm 46 years old. I got about 40 plus years of unlearning and relearning to do. So it would take me some time to get used to this way of living. But where I'm at this damn stage of life now, I think I could do that. Because I tell my wife, I live in Cedar Park, like right outside of Austin. But I'm at the point in time, a point space in my life now where I'm like, I wasn't raised in the country, but I want to do more country living. I want more space because I enjoy my peace. I enjoy my quiet. I enjoy just being able to go outside and enjoy nature and not deal with everything that goes on in the city. When I want to deal with the city and I want the run and gun of life, I can go get a part of that. But when it's time to relax, I don't want to be nowhere around that. I don't want to hear gunshots. I don't want to hear music all night. I don't want to hear sirens. I don't want to hear bright lights all night. That was good when I was younger. But now that I've matured and I've seen that there's a better way of life, then that's what I want. And I think for me, for that particular reason, I could probably definitely do more Amish country living than I could city. My partner, my buddy, who's in my accountability group, his name is Doug. He's a magician. He owns a magic company, him and his wife, and him and his family. And he lives in that part of Pennsylvania by Amish country. And he like, I love it. He's like, we've learned so much. Like we're doing our own gardening and our own self-sustaining this and our own self-sustaining that. And he's just like, I love it. So I go out into the world, I do my comedy and I do everything that I do and I get a piece of that. But when I go back home, there's a different type of peace that just don't happen. There's a different motivation for why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's more transcendent at that time. It's more intrinsic than it is extrinsic. You know what I'm saying? And I think we allow too many external factors within America to control our life. And it's really because what we were almost programmed into. We look at everything on the outside and never focus internally on the inside. And that's why most people, you are born, you alive, but you die at 25 and live to 80. That's just how I see it. Because at that point, by the time you get 25, you so programmed, most of us become robots. We really live in the matrix until the time we dead.
That's man, there's so much here to unpack. One at 25, that's when the average, I'm not sure if it's the same for females, but for the male, 25 is the age when your brain is done fully being developed. So that's when your programming is complete, whatever that may have been. And although, say for example, being Amish or something like that, right? That would have been such a great foundation. But us being in the matrix, if you will, being born in the matrix, it's also kind of a cool story because you're breaking out of it. It's like we're the breakout archetype. You're breaking out of the programming. You're unlearning, deprogramming yourself, and all this. And that in itself, I don't think is an easy feat. And I don't think many people do that. I don't think there's a lot of people that actually are doing that type of work. But thanks to the internet and like podcasts like this, I think more people would become aware of that being a possibility. So we kind of start feeling like more like a Neo from the Matrix, you know. But that is such a good metaphor because when he's finally done unplugging, he's so disoriented. You know, he's just so disoriented, like you don't know what the fuck is going on, what to do, because you lose all sense of what you thought you were.
And it's like we've been talking, like you mentioned, you know, about spiritual bypass. Some people you can get so deep into reading the Bible or reading the Quran and all these other books and spiritual books and uplifting things. It's just like it can make your head hurt. Like it's just overwhelming. And again, growing up here in North America, you almost I don't even know a word to put on it. You just feel like I feel stupid at times because it's like, oh my God, there's so much I did not know. And there's so many questions I have now, and nobody has the answers to them. They just like, that's the way it is. Talk to God. Well, I've been talking to God and God ain't talked me back yet. Like I need to know something like right now. And it's so overwhelming at times. I think people are they would much rather not do than to do. Because once you begin doing things, you have to do something else. And as they say, once the mind has been expanded, there's no going back. But the fact that we fasted before, the fact that we started tapping into our spiritual enlightenment, the fact that we want to get better in life, we can go back and eat horrible food. You can go hang out at the strip club 6 or 7 days a week.
But you know the truth.
I guarantee you within 80, 90 days, there's going to be a part of you like, okay, I don't want this no more. I got to go do
And you know what? Once you realize what it feels to really be in the spirit, it hurts more to be out of it. It hurts so much more, man. And for me, I was like, man, I've done shit like this. I do not remember it hurting this much. Like the suffering was so much worse, like mentally, emotionally, even physically. It was so disorienting. It was so fucked up, man. I was like, wow, because I've done all this what's a good word? I don't know, Babylonian stuff, you know, before when I was in ignorance, but now that I know the truth and I've become more sensitive to everything, now it hurts more. I was like, fuck that. I cannot deny that. So in a sense, it's also a good thing because it motivates me more to get back into being in alignment with the spirit.
Absolutely. You know? And then I feel like when you're in alignment with the spirit, is almost there's more simplicity in it.
Yes.
You know, it's like I was on a podcast Thursday and I kept doing this like like I was spitting. And like I said, man, listen, Jesus even says I spit you out my mouth if you lukewarm. Like you either hot, you with me, or you cold, you against me. I know how to deal with you if you cold. I know how to deal with you when you hot. But when you're in the middle, I don't know how to deal with you. So therefore, I just get rid of you. So now that I've been hot and on the spiritual side, and it's like when you try to go back in here to warm water, you're like, I don't know if I really want that. This ain't good. Yeah. Like, this not good at all.
Like you're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, bro. And one of the things I would say, I'm like, man, why the fuck not? It's my cake. I can eat it. So now I'm like, oh, that's why not. Okay.
But you know what I learned?
Cake analogy is not a good one to use, but
no, that's good because here's the thing. God, whatever name you want to put on it, he wants you to be able to have cake and eat it too, but he just wants you to do it within his house and his kingdom. He like, look, Goop, I want you to have sex. Have all the sex that you want to have. I just want you to have it with your wife. Now, if you live in a society that believes you can have multiple wives, because we know in the Bible, during those times when they was talking about wife, they weren't talking about the paperwork you signed. What identified a marriage was y'all coming out showing those blood-stained sheets. But that's a whole nother level, and virginity and all that other stuff.
Man.
Like you wasn't like literally, if you go back and read the Bible, especially some Old Testament stuff, literally, when you married someone, like your family members and people would be standing outside waiting for y'all to come out and show that y'all consummated this marriage by showing the sheets, meaning that you had sex with her, you broke the vaginal lining, and she started to bleed. Now y'all have that bonding, that covenant. If y'all didn't do that, when y'all came out or it wasn't there, they would stone you to death because you didn't do that final step. But now we at the point to where people only getting married and they looking at, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. No, bro. If you believe in God, you still taking a covenant to something bigger than you. Now,
that's a very big trap and a very big temptation for a woman too, because in a contractual way, in the legal way, they get rewarded for not keeping their word, basically. Absolutely. They get rewarded, so they get half of your shit, you know, and no repercussions for them not sticking to the marriage. So you get rewarded for negative behavior, which is fucked up. And this is I don't know if you've looked into that whole red pill thing that's going on right now. And this is one of the issues that a lot of men are having. They're like, look, man, I'm still upholding my traditional role here, which is protector, provider. And I think the main thing that they're not doing, though, that we used to do in biblical times is like put God first, or at least make that a part of our lives, you know?
Being priest-like.
Yeah, and so now that's one of the issues that a lot of men are having. They're like, yo, I'm still holding my traditional values. I'm still being the man I'm supposed to be. But now women are coming over here with like a bunch of bodies on them, diseases and all this, you know, and like just acting completely different. And so that's one of the issues that a lot of men are having in that whole red pill sphere. And I think the antidote would be like, yo, just go back to God, go back to source. You know, that's what it really comes down to. Like all this, like how many wives you can have or like whether she was a virgin or not. all that is really a symptom
Yep.
of the disconnection with source.
Absolutely. Because you have to go back to the original thing. People get more wrapped up in religion than what the original creation was, and the foundation was always family, and it was structure, and it was order. And now there's no, it's not about man being the head because I'm better than you and you just got to listen to what I say. No, and I'm only talking to people who call themselves now at this point believing in a higher power, whatever you name it. I call them God. If you call yourself believing in God and you're not following order, then you don't really believe in what that God is telling you, man or woman. And as a man, like you said, your job is to protect, to provide, and to be priest-like. Being priest-like, you are supposed to be the spiritual authority in your home. The reason why women wasn't letting into the church like that and they wasn't allowed to speak like that back during those times, it was more so because they didn't want the woman to look at the husband as inferior. So you went out 100 and you brought the food home, right? She cooked it and everything. You get the house, she made it a home. You go out and you got the word, and then when you brought the word home, your wife was looking at you like, my husband said this, it, I'm in alignment. Now you getting your word from here, there, and everywhere. So what your husband saying don't mean a thing. So now the order and the structure is all out of whack and it's all out of place. And you wondering why y'all not in a good space because your motivations are different.
Yes, it's so distorted, man. Everything gets so distorted. And ultimately, it is the man that is responsible for everything. I would say, because if you're going to be in a leadership position, you're going to have to walk that walk. Like I remember I'm going to bring like the Gita. I was reading the Bhagavad Gita. It says, and I'm paraphrasing heavily here, but it said, what good is it to be celibate if you're still thinking about sex? You know, if you're still thinking about sex, but you're not having sex and you're being celibate, you're saying you're being celibate, but you're still thinking about it. That's kind of hypocritical. And in the sense, you're being a pretender. So you're pretending you're being fake still. So I was like, man, and nobody else is going to know if you're thinking about it or not. Not actually trying to have sex, but you're going to know. God knows. So you're going to feel that confidence or lack thereof if you're not in alignment with that intention of being celibate. Like that whole thing starts in the mind too, which is, man, that's fucking hard.
But here's the thing. Here's what's so great about it, man. Like we've both, but you've done something that's already so amazing. Like you train and you talked about and that's what people don't get. Like you can reprogram the body. Like, people like, I can't go without meat. I can't go without fried chicken and this, that, and the third. You're like, yes, you can. Once you do it, your body doesn't even have a desire or a craving for it anymore. Now, it's going to take time because you're fighting off 20, 30 years. You have to understand the body is a computer. You've inserted a virus and a program into your body. Viruses. Like you've inserted so many viruses. You need a major reboot. Like you need a major reboot. And people are afraid to take the time to reboot themselves to learn who they are, not who somebody told you should be, but who you are. And if you're not in religion and you have a relationship with your higher power, that's two totally different things. And people have more religion than they have a relationship, and they wonder why they're not succeeding because you just going to the church, letting the pastor talk to you and spoon feed you everything, but then you don't go home and read or do anything for yourself. So how can you say, it's like, I ain't asking Goot to build a relationship with my wife. If Goot talk to my wife all the time and they spending time together and he say that he built her up for me, then 9 times out of 10, she gonna be more built up for him because he's giving her the information.
That's a great point. I never thought about it like that. Fuck, man. Damn. And you know what? And this is why it's so important to have your own individual relationship to a higher power, so that no other man can like sway your woman. So like she's like, no, I know my man's in the spirit. I don't gotta question that. Like,
how many times we heard about pastor sleeping with somebody's wife?
I've actually never heard about that, but I'm pretty sure it happened.
Oh, yeah.
My
wife that came in for prayer, and you got her on her knees, but it ain't for altar call.
Oh, that's so fucked up. You know, this is one of the things that I read in Matthew 23 in the Bible. One of the things that Jesus was saying about the priests, about some of the religious leaders, the priests. He's like, you guys know how to get into heaven, but you don't let nobody in, and you don't go in yourselves. you know. And I found that, and you know what's crazy? He goes on to describe them, and then I look around, a lot of these priests or pastors, they're still behaving in the same way that he describes them in the Bible thousands of years ago. And you can look at this if you want to, at Matthew chapter 23. That's what I found so crazy, man. And another one is like when people say like, oh, go to, and I got nothing against church, because I know a lot of people have pure intentions that go, you know, if it helps them out, it's great. But that's not the only place where God is. You know, like you can't be God and be only in one place. That kind of takes away from your omnipresence.
And again, if you listen and people keep it simple, it's like church in America, or church as we know, that's a physical building. Church, for what God was talking about, you are the church. You are the temple. Jesus didn't go to church. The only time Jesus went into a church building, he was tearing stuff up, kicking stuff up, talking about not in my Father's house. Yeah. So you running up in the building, but you're not running up in your own church to do your own church work. This
is one of the things he goes on to say, my Father's house was not built by human hands. For me, that was and this is the thing, is like people forget, like, yeah, he was known as the Lamb of God, but he was also known as the Lion of Judah. Homeboy, like he wasn't a hippie. He wasn't a pacifist. Like, he'll tell you the truth straight up, and be like, didn't he go around whipping people too?
That part, like that part, and that's what I think. That's what frustrates me sometimes. It's like, oh, hold on, bro, you read the Bible? So everything that you see was like, I don't know what you're tripping on, because since the beginning of times, like, again, the first man that was created, Adam, again, he instantly started blaming God. Oh, it's the woman you gave me. Hold on, I gave you the woman, but I gave you the rules. You know, I gave you the rules and the instruction. And not only that, as you continue to read throughout the Bible, the children of Israel, how he was allowing them to destroy other people and do things like, it's been mayhem and madness since the beginning of time. So you fast forward when Jesus come, he like, okay, I don't got to go through all that with you, but I'm going to let you know what time it is. And I'm going to ask you, like the men that brought the lady, oh, she in here committing adultery. He like, okay, he playing in the dirt, as they say, writing something, and he look up like, hey, he who without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
And he look up, everybody gone. Oh, y'all talk a good game, but y'all don't really want to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? So like, even Jesus was like, man, miss me with that. And I think people miss that. They look at God, and which he is, they look at it as a loving, but don't forget, I don't get it twisted. Like, God is destroying some things as well. This the same God that let the devil go in there and test Job. You can do whatever you want to do to him, just don't kill him.
That's the crazy part. And he's like, hey, he's like, don't, like, whoever lives by a sword dies by a sword, you know, like, but who do you, like, God would also be like the one that can be like, you know, hey, go protect these people. You may have to kill somebody, you know, and that's one of the crazy things is like, and I find interesting parallels in between all these holy books, and same thing in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna, God, tells Arjuna, the warrior king, he tells him stand up and fight, because the warrior king, he's having some doubts. He's like, God, I don't want to kill all these people. I don't want to do this. And he's like, basically have courage, which is a lot of things that, like, Jesus says that a lot, have courage, you know. He goes, besides, it's not you doing all this is done by my hand. Like, you're not doing anything. All you got to do is stand up and fight. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. That kind of changed my perspective on a lot of things, and it helped me even see Jesus in a different light as well. You know, because like, oh, there's a reason why he was known as the Lion of Judah too, not just the Lamb of God. And so in this parallel, in the Hindu scriptures, he's like, he's doing it all. You know, it like this is what needs to be done based on the circumstances that we find ourselves in right now. Because he also gave us free will. He's like, well, because we all have free will, all these people are fucking up so bad that this has to happen. If not, all the innocent people, God's children, they'll be destroyed. So God, being a father, he's like, I'm not going to let that shit slide, guys. I have my appointed warriors, and that's what an angel is. Angels have their shields and their swords for a reason, you know?
Absolutely, man. It's, for me, at the end of the day, it's like, again, a question: what are your motivations? Are they internal, external, or is it for the betterment of someone else? Like, is it internal, external, for the betterment of someone else, not only growing yourself. And those are the questions like we really have to ask. Look at it however you want to look at it, good, bad, or indifferent. The United States government had some type of motivation to send guys like you and me to Iraq. Now, we didn't have to agree with that. Our reasons for going could have been totally different. I'm going because they told me I had to go. I ain't want to go. Or I'm going because I need to get more money. Or I'm going because I'm just that crazy dude that want to kill people. Whatever your motivations is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
what were your motivations, by the way? I'm just curious, like, to join the military.
I didn't want to be a fast food worker for the rest of my life. I was 22 years old managing a Burger King, and I seen my life going nowhere. So I did not join because I was a super patriot. I love the country. I didn't know enough about the military. I was 22. Yeah, in 99, when I first joined to go active duty, I had been having recruiters talk to me or try to get me to join since I was like 17, 18. I'm like, yeah, no way. Never happened in my life. And to be honest with you, I got $12,000 in 1998 because my dad had got early retirement from GM. Social Security came to me and said, hey, since your dad was not working, he didn't have enough money to take care of you. Therefore, we feel like we owe you money. That's in the nuts and bolts. Oh, okay, cool. I was managing a Burger King. Like I was a shift manager / supervisor on my way up. You know, just had got done talking to the store manager and the regional manager. Like, oh yeah, you know, you keep this up in 3 years, you be a store manager, and then maybe another 5 or 6 years, you could be a general manager. And I kind of looked at, no disrespect to nobody in my family. I'm the youngest of 4. I kind of looked around me, family and friends. Most people are managing a fast food restaurant, some dead end job that's like a step up from a fast food restaurant. It was just like, this ain't going nowhere. And I just happened to be at the mall spending some of that $12,000 like early on a Monday or something. And I seen these recruiters and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to listen to see what they got to say this time. And I'm like, instead of doing this fast food, let's go check out the military and see how that works. And that was it. That was like, it was a spontaneous thought, decision, boom, let's make it happen. And to be honest with you, it was one of the best decisions that I made. I'm grateful that I didn't do active duty the way I originally started. I'm grateful that the Army put a bad taste in my mouth for active duty and basic training based on some things. I don't have to get into that right now. That led me to the Michigan National Guard. Great unit. September 11th happened. Things started happening. I volunteered to go to Iraq. The reason I volunteered to go to Iraq, I'm not a killer, but don't push me because I will kill then. But I volunteered to go to Iraq because I think God just was showing me the writing on the wall. And really, one, I wanted to know if I was really as tough as I thought I was at that time. Could I actually go over there and be a man and do my job in a place of combat and war, whatever that is? And then 2, which most importantly, you know, being in the National Guard, you get new people in pretty regular. And once they start sending people off in deployment, the unit keeps building. So I went to Egypt in 2004. And when I came home, they asked for volunteers to go to Iraq 2005, 2006. My mindset was still, I don't volunteer for nothing. Then a bunch of my friends volunteered and went. And then they came back and they started looking for volunteers for 2006 to 2007. And you watching the news, you're like, this thing ain't going away no time soon. So I can either go with guys that I've been training with and served with for the last 4 or 5 years, or I could wait till they send me in another year or so with a bunch of new guys that don't know nothing. Yeah, I'm going to volunteer and go right now. Like, I'm going to go right now. So that's how I wind up doing it. Those are my motivations for joining, going to Iraq and all that. And then when I was out, to be honest with you, my plan was to do 20 years. My plan was to do 20 years because I thought, oh, retirement. I didn't have a regular job. I didn't know I was going to retire from. So the military was going to be my retirement. Once I was able to get disability, something I didn't know anything about. And when I got disability, I'm like, oh, sweet. They just gave me a nice check for $30,000 or something like that. I'm good. Then he like, you know, you get paid a monthly check for the rest of your life. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, you get paid. Oh, shit, I'm getting out now. I got my retirement. I'm done. So once that happened, that was it for me, man. So, yeah, those was my motivations.
So it was a little bit intrinsic and extrinsic.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. What
No,
about you?
for me, it was honestly pretty damn near the same thing. I was working as a stalker at Sellers Brothers, a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, fuck this, you know, like fuck this, bro. So it was multifaceted here. So it was I was like, let me go do something cool. I remember telling my recruiter because he was telling me about it. I was looking around like, what the fuck? I'm just gonna be a stalker at a grocery store. Like fuck this, like this just sucks. And also, I saw it as a challenge. I wanted to challenge myself. Penalty said, I want to see what you're capable of, right? And
Yep.
then they told me about the $20,000 bonus.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, it's either infantry or diesel mechanic or flywheel mechanic, something like that. And I was like, which was harder? You know, like they're like infantry. I didn't even know what that word meant. I was like, okay, I don't even know. I never heard that word before in my life. And I was like, all right, let's do that. And another part of it was I was simply bored. And I know that's not patriotic. That's not selfless. I didn't hear about any of these values before then, you know?
Nah.
So I remember one time, I think it was Sergeant Norman and somebody else. No, I think Sergeant Tamez, we're at the range. And one of those two guys, and this was, I think, when we were already back from Iraq, I think. And I had put on some weight. Boy, I was fat, you know? And they asked me, like, so why'd you join? I was like, because I was bored, Sergeant. They were like, what the fuck? I got fucking smoke for that, man. I was like, it's like I don't like the truth. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
What the fuck?
I tell people that. I didn't join because I was no super patriot.
It was definitely completely, I would say, selfish reasons. There wasn't no patriotism. Mm-hmm. I wasn't trying to be selfless. Mm-hmm. I thought it was challenging. It would be a cool life experience. And it would test me, you know. And the bonus, obviously, like right before I signed up, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, they got me with that too. Back in '99, I think I went in to be a combat engineer, and that same thing. I had no clue what I wanted to do, what I wanted to pick. I did know about infantry. I didn't know what they did. Just of course, when I heard about the infantry, it was always, they the front line. They go to war. You don't want to do that. So when I joined in '99, my recruiter, he was like, first thing you want to do is ask for the job that's giving the best bonus. I was like, all right, the job giving the biggest bonus. And at that time, it was combat engineer. It was like $11,000, which turns out to be only like $6,500, the way the Army break it up. So it was like, all right, I'll do that. So when I did all the basic training and all that stuff, how I wound up in the infantry was when I went to the National Guard, I was like, I don't want to leave far from home. I don't want to have to travel. And so there was a National Guard unit. I lived on the west side. There was a National Guard unit on the east side of town, probably 20, 30 minutes away. Don't seem like that long when you're in the city, like driving from one side of Houston to the next. And when I got there, they had infantry, transportation, like cook, something like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm going infantry. Like this, it's supposed to be hard. This is supposed to be the tough guys. So let's do this and let's see. And that's just what it was. So yeah. And I think my to be honest with you, my intrinsic motivation for staying in the infantry and actually developing the way I did, it was just because I never wanted to look bad. And I knew in the military, you know, people that look bad, they get shit on. Mm-hmm. Then that's just what it is. You know, you get shit on. I never wanted to look bad. And I just always wanted to, I never considered myself, when people be like, oh, Sergeant Smith, he's so squared away and this, that, and the third. I'd be like, shit, no, I ain't. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. Like, it ain't that difficult. Like, it ain't that difficult. And then I just realized, man, sometimes the Army has a way of putting stamps of approval on people before they really prove anything. And I learned early on, if you can show up on time and pass the PT test, you're a super soldier.
Yeah. So what was it so what was your reason for leaving? Why didn't you stay in and make a career out of it? What was it that was like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back for you to not want to re-enlist?
It was changing. The unit was changing. Definitely here in Texas, like, after our deployment to Iraq in 2009, like you, Tosto, Sutton, Tweedo, all those guys left. Carl, Seafood left. So it was like, okay, I still got Z. I still got Torres. You know, it was changing and learning now in life. I'm more conservative in a sense of I don't like change too fast. Like I enjoy what I enjoy. So I was like, okay, cool. You start to meet different people and learn new people. But there was a lot of talk back in 2015. Because I got out in 2016. There was a lot of talk about implementing women into the infantry. And I was just like, this ain't gonna work. Not for me. Like, I know who I am. I'm a silly guy, but I know Sarge can also go from silly to being crazy and saying some stuff that's gonna really, I'm like, I don't have time to ruin my career. And I just didn't think it fit. So I was just like, that mix not gonna work. I didn't want to leave the infantry. I didn't want to reclass to another MOS or any of that stuff. So I'm like, it's just going to be best for me to walk away at 15 years. Then another part, to be honest with you, I truly didn't want to be an E7. And I didn't want to be an E7 because I couldn't be. I didn't want to do an E7 because the only thing they did to me in my mind was paperwork. You're not with the guys anymore. I love being with the guys, running, gunning, training. And now as a platoon sergeant, which I had the ability to act as several times, and sit in meetings and briefings and realize, nah, this ain't for me. This too political at this point. I'm out.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Yes, man. That's kind of like what did it for me too. It was that, and there was I saw the standards were becoming too relaxed.
Yeah.
Like come on, man. Like I can see myself like, dude, I am not like, this is not how a soldier should be. And a lot of that was on me. Yeah. But you let me get away with this. You know, like I'm supposed to be more physically fit than this. And like, so you're not holding us up to standards. You know, so I'm like, I can't trust the leadership.
No. And that was the thing for, I mean, that's big.
With exceptions to you and, you know, all our, like the immediate leadership that did hold themselves up to standard, that was dope. But the National Guard itself, or maybe I don't even know if it was like that for active duty, but the National Guard itself is like, we're not being held up to standard. You know, like there was a lot of overweight people there, man. I'm like, if you want to be fat, bro. But like, say shit does hit the fan, and I didn't go through any crazy shit. You did, but I didn't, and I know, like, yo, you can't be fat. Why are they allowing us to be not up to standard? You know, and I didn't have words for it, but I know back then I was like, nah, it's just like more an intuitive thing. Like I didn't have the words to articulate what it was, but now it's like I was kind of like disappointment, like in the leadership. Like, man, you're letting this shit get too lax, bro.
That was a thing for me as well. Yeah, that was definitely a thing for me as well. Some things that I seen, and like I said, not even hoping, but thinking that when I got to the point of E5, okay, I'll get into a little bit more meetings and see what's going on. And I get to E6, I'll really be in some of these meetings because I have to. And it's got to be different when I get in these meetings to see what's going on. And then you get in these meetings, you're like, man, this is all bullshit right here. Like,
so was it all too political?
Yeah, like, it was a lot more political. And then, like you said, standards. Yeah. I got to go out here and write a negative counseling statement on my soldiers and rip them a new one about not passing the PT test. But here it is. I got some of my peers that's sitting in this room with me that has not passed the PT test, but you pencil whipping your shit and you getting promoted? Nah, I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm not going to be a part of this. So,
yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. So that kind of made, like, I will say though, it was a little bit more of a challenging transition being back in the civilian world. Like that sense of brotherhood ain't there. It ain't the same. Like I remember being out there with y'all and it was like, yo, who needs socks? Boom, somebody throws the socks. You know, if you ain't completely scored away, your boy's gonna help you out. You know, like even if y'all don't like each other, even if y'all been talking shit to each other, you know, racial slurs everywhere, you know,
everywhere.
Backs, you know, but you got each other's backs, and all we hear is like people acting suspicious, like they hesitate to help. You know, and that's what's crazy to me is like, we're okay, that camaraderie ain't there, the brotherhood ain't there. You kind of have to create your own sense of brotherhood and kind of start leading by example, you know, what your values are. And then it's like, man, you're not, well, the purpose ain't there, and then the team ain't there. So it's very hard, man. When you go back to a regular job, it's like, man, what do I do?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, for me, honestly, that's why I keep trying the 9 to 5. And I can't hold a job. I can't hold a job.
Yeah.
And like, well, I could if I wanted to. Let me rephrase
Right.
that. But I do not want to. And it's always a leadership thing. Like that's what it's been like, man. So
And it
right
could
now,
just be, I was just about to say, it ain't that you can't hold a job. Like you said, you could because you wanted to. You just see the way that people run things is not something that you want to be a part of. So it may be more so for you to create and start your own business and do what you want to do, as opposed to where you can set the parameters in place, as opposed to what somebody else say you should be doing, but then they're not doing what they're asking you to do. And that's what I tell people. Yeah, that's what I tell people. I'm like, one thing about me as a soldier, even if I don't feel like I was the best, like I wasn't the best, I was a damn good one though. I'm like, you can talk to almost anybody that who served with me or up under me. They know I ain't about to ask them to do nothing that I wouldn't do. So my guys who I had would go to war for me. Like they would go to war for me just because I wanted to know the person. Like I'm gonna talk a lot of shit to them. I'm gonna smoke them, but then at the same time, I'm gonna get with you and talk to you and see who you are as a person. Like give you the good, bad, the ugly. Hey man, I know this don't make sense, but hey, we in the military. We got to do it. Like, and I learned early on the easiest way to get out of the military and to beat the military is to do your contract and walk away. Because the minute you start playing games with them, it's not gonna be pretty.
Man, there's no winning there, man, and that's crazy. So, what do you think the future of our military is? You think it's looking better? You think it's gonna get worse before it gets better?
I think it's gonna get a little bit worse before it gets better. But I also believe like, I don't know. Like most people saying again, that can just be conservative mindset. Like the war is always won on the ground. What people putting bodies out there because it's a body count. You can count who won versus this, that, and the third. But the landscape of military and combat and war is so different now from America's standpoint. But when you look at places like Russia attacking Ukraine, that's still old fashioned. Like you had civilians, like, no. We still got pride. Strap me up, baby. I ain't got to join the military, but I'm going to fight for what's mine. Right. And in America, I don't think is that sense anymore to a certain degree. You still have enough individuals in America where if they like, yo, it's a time of war, there's no shortage of red-blooded Americans who going to go sign up to go take their opportunity and they shot. But that doesn't mean that we're going to be a dominant superpower military. And those individuals that you're going to get is just going to be cannon fire. You just going in to get those jobs, infantry, combat engineer. You're going to get those frontline jobs because they're going to offer you the bonuses and things like that. So what I really think is going to go to is going to go to a more technological aspect, the way things are done. They're gonna hit you where it hurts, like blacking out your power and your communications and things like that, long before we get to actual physical combat in that sense of, looking at the US and China, things like that. China got a million-man foot army. We don't have a million people in the army, I don't think. Our reserve forces, I think, is larger than our active duty services, but America, no. All you got to do is put the call in and it's going to be 1 million people to join tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, all you got to do is say America is under attack.
There's no shortage of patriotism here.
No, not at all.
I think you're right. I don't think it's old school war like is going on in Ukraine and between Ukraine and Russia. But I think right now it's more of an economic thing, of an economic war. So it's like who can garner the most attention. That seems to be the currency nowadays. Attention. Like, so whoever has the largest amount of attention has the biggest platform, the most influence. And so and money and attention seem to be the true power. And it goes beyond just like a physical combat. That's what it seems.
And we're in a kinder, gentler world now. So you're not going to be able to recruit individuals the same way they recruited us. So now, like when we were in the military and we were getting ready to get out, I remember like the Crow system was first coming around, so now there's more vehicles with Crow systems. There's more computer and video game like simulation for soldiers to do than it was when we got in. If you go back and you watch that one movie, I think it was with Ethan Hawke, where he had PTSD from being a drone pilot. He was
Wow.
in Las Vegas, but he was controlling drones in Afghanistan. So he was literally fighting a war from a room like me and you sitting in a little cubicle, like literally. But when he left and he went out to the outside world, it's like civilian life. You on Vegas Strip, they still going crazy. He like, I just launched 3 Scud missiles and killed people.
That's crazy, man. Hey, do you think maybe, and it may be a little bit of a conspiracy theory here, but do you think maybe we were desensitized to do something like that through video games, to where you don't feel as much mental emotional repercussions for those types of behaviors?
That's why your extrinsic motivation is more negative than positive, because you've been conditioned in this country to accept negativity. We literally, we know death happens, but the world watch whatever you think about them, good, bad, or indifferent. Maybe 70% of the world or 70% of America watch the man get killed. You know what I'm saying? Like, watch George Floyd get choked out by a police officer till he died, crying for his mama. Nobody ran over there to help. Nobody ran over there to push you off. Like, I know you the police, but you work for us. So since they've shown you death so much, nobody's willing to do anything. And what did that do? High school shooting has spiked. Event shootings has spiked. So we're so comfortable with watching and not doing anything. And I say this, like, the things that they put in the movie is only reality. They're just softening you up to be able to accept it. It might not happen in my lifetime, but the purge is going to be real for somebody's lifetime, because they're more comfortable now with killing. There's no regard for human life anymore. Video games are so realistic nowadays that sitting in front of your big screen TV with your headphones on, talking crazy and just killing people all day long, you don't walk out the door and separate the two. Like, oh, now I'm back in normal reality. Nah, you still in this virtual world.
Yeah, and that example right there is one of the parts of the whole simulation theory. Like, you already see how realistic video games are getting. So now imagine in the future, if we end up not killing ourselves, we make it so realistic to the point where it feels and looks just like this. Everything feels this real. Now you make it to the point where we're like, okay, whenever we plug you into this game / simulation, you're gonna forget who you are, and you're gonna be this character. Say, for example, your name's gonna be Victor, and you're gonna forget who you are completely. So you're not gonna even know you're in a simulation. So you're gonna get thrown in there, and this is gonna be the video game. So that's one of the arguments for the possibility of us being in a simulation right now, which makes it kind of crazy, because like we could be like, okay, we could be so advanced already. It could be like, okay, you're gonna see what it was like in the year 2023, and some other people are plugged up. They're like, you're gonna see how it was like being a caveman.
Yep.
You're gonna see how it's like being a pilgrim. So I don't know. There's so much to this. But yeah,
it's interesting, man. It's like, again, what motivates you to get to where you want to be in life? Because at the end of the day, regardless of how we look at it, we all leave some type of legacy. Like, what you do affects someone else. Like, what you do literally affects someone else. And depending on what your motivations are leaving this earth when you leave, you know what I'm saying, is going to dictate what you do while you're here. And that's really what it is. Like, we're leaving something, we're leaving a piece of us behind, regardless to how you look at it. And what you do at the time that you have while you're here is going to be very powerful in your next journey of evolution, wherever you may go. It's going to be very powerful. And this part will pass like anything else. It's, again, history is history for a reason, but we're learning that history is his story. It's the story of the victor. It's the story of the individual who won or lost. Like, but it's still a story. So what story are you willing to put out there to leave for you? And what are your motivations for leaving that story behind? Because you're going to leave something behind.
I now that you're talking about legacy, I heard there was an interview that I saw with Kanye West, and they were asking him legacy, and he got to the point to where he was like, he doesn't care about it anymore. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, why wouldn't you care about legacy? And he's like, who is the person that invented the street light? A stoplight. Eventually you're gonna get forgotten about too. But at least you contributed something cool. Something worthwhile, something withstanding.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's important for us to look at those things, but it's almost like it's like talking about Black History Month. Like every year, everybody, and no disrespect to anybody, take it how you want to take it. Like we talk about Martin, Malcolm, Harriet Tubman, and these things, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Being in Texas, I've heard more from maybe the Hispanic community about Cesar Chavez than I've heard about anybody else. But you mean to tell me there's no one else? There's not other people who's creating more history and continuing to do more things? How come we're not highlighting those people, talking about them, and then saying, okay, look what this individual is now? Because there's living legacies out here right now. Like I was just watching something on YouTube, like some boxing stuff. And I know the two not the same for most individuals, but to me, they're similar. Like Andy Ruiz was the first Mexican American or first Mexican heavyweight boxer. You know how many heavyweight boxers there's been? So forever, no matter what anybody say, Andy Ruiz will always go down as the first Mexican heavyweight boxer. You cannot take that from him. And in some parts of the world, he will be revered forever for that feat that he accomplished that other individuals could not do. But it doesn't take away from the other individuals who are Mexican fighters. It doesn't take away from those gentlemen who he probably watched who was great. But it's like I'm adding to this piece of history. And if you want me to only look at this piece of history, how is that simple piece of history shaping my present and my future? It's not. So I have to look at what's happening now, what happened in the past, and what am I setting up in place for hopefully things to happen better in the future? Like, what are my motivations again for why I do what I do when I do? My whole reason for doing Speak Grunt, like I said, was to help other individuals like myself who struggle with PTSD, who struggle with separating from the military, or who just struggle with finding their way through life. And I didn't feel like I don't know the podcast out there that's targeting those people. I know for me, and maybe I need to get more specific and say not just soldiers. Maybe I need to get more specific and say, I already say infantry soldiers, but maybe I need to say National Guard infantry soldiers, because there's a big difference.
So you're focusing in on your niche.
Yes, there's a big difference between the National Guard infantry guy and an active duty infantry guy. One's doing this thing every single day, and somebody's doing this once a month. So the information that he's receiving is different. So my motivation for doing this was, hey, if I could just assist and help one person who might be going through something, how to overcome, how to get through, and showing them that, yes, you can go do 2 tours in Iraq. You can be in a multitude of firefights. You can get hit with IEDs. You can get flipped over in trucks, and you still can come out and live a productive, successful life if you choose to. That was my whole point.
Yeah. And well, I think this it's a very good way to express yourself in a creative way. To where it's like kind of like removing the focus from everything that we seem to be going through that's negative and applying it in a way that's constructive and creative. And I think that's very important for anybody. But I know there's a lot of people who are having a hard time with transitioning from, like you said, like military life to civilian life. And I think a creative outlet like this is a good example of how to find a creative outlet, And
I think a lot of times as we get ready to close, we've been on 2 hours. Look at that. And I think a lot of times, I know, right? When it's good, it goes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times what a lot of us may miss sometimes in the military, what we miss is some of the same things that we hated about the military. And it's that structure. It really is. It's that structure. Because you get to a point where you just want to be free. Leave me alone. I don't want to do this. Like,
that's
I want
a big
to do this.
one.
But then you get to the civilian
one.
Yeah, you get to the civilian world and
that whole structure and the discipline is like, okay, you can still have that, but you have to make yourself do that. Like now there's nobody here telling you and forcing you to get up at 0 dark 30, you know, to go do what you know you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And like, damn, like, okay, shit.
I went from, you know, I'm a short guy, so going on ruck marches in the military was never like something I was celebrating. Like it's very rare that I'm falling out of them. You know what I'm saying? I fell back, but never fall out to where I'm getting on the van and the truck and all that stuff, not unless I'm injured. But I went from not, you know, being happy about doing ruck marches to getting out of the military. And one day it was just a challenge. I was getting ready to go on a walk and I seen my ruck sitting in the garage. I'm like, man, I wonder if I can still carry this thing. And me putting that thing on was just like, oh yeah, I could do this. So it turned into a love for rucking. You know what I'm saying? So like crazy, it was a love for rucking. And then what it was it was more of, I would often tell myself the physical weight was not the thing that got me. It was the mental weight in rucking that got me, to show me that I could overcome this. And so when hard things happened to me in my life, again, I was rucking like crazy in 2019 and early 2020. My mom passed in 2020. COVID happened in 2020. So it was like all those days of rucking built me up mentally to be able to go through everything that we encountered. And physically made me strong.
Was there also an aspect of nostalgia when it came to rucking once you were already out?
Oh, yeah. Once I was already out, that was it.
I remember watching some of your videos. And I was like, man, I want to try that shit. You know, and the rucking, so I did. I loaded up as much as I could. I even threw on the weight vest. And it was actually fun. That was the first time rucking was actually fun. And I think it was because it was my own decision. You know, it was inspired by watching you do it. And like you were doing it on daily. I was like, let me go ahead and try that too. You know, and I did it, and I found it enjoyable. Tiring as fuck, for sure.
Yeah.
I did a good, like, 12 miles. I'm like, man, I used to hate rucking, dude. I used to hate it with a passion. Now I'm like, how the fuck am I enjoying this? That's crazy.
It's so crazy how much shit you enjoy about the Army after you leave the Army.
Yes. Yeah, man. Like that old saying, like, you don't know what you got till it's gone, you know?
Until it's gone. Yeah, until it's gone. Well, go ahead. I'm listening.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna close out the show. Thank you.
No, you're good because I've been holding in my piss for a minute now. It was good, man.
Don't ever feel bad about saying, hey, I'll be back. I gotta go take a break. Like I got it. You be
I know. I was just in it, man. I was like, I didn't want to miss a minute, you know. So like I can hold it.
Yeah.
We hold it. Yeah.
I want to say thank y'all for actually tuning in. Speak Grunt Speak, where we come through and we speak to you. Everybody welcome. Everybody will not be a member, man. So I ask you to share this video. Make sure you drop some comments down below when you go back and watch it later. Let us know what you think, man. We just want to let everybody know we appreciate you. Everything that you do, you more than capable to get through. Everything that you think about doing, you more than capable to get through. And know that it's possible if you just willing to take the steps. So until next week, we will see y'all. And I want to say thank you again to Victor Mike for coming on, joining us, being a part of the show. I want to send a big shout out to Whiskey Charlie where he may be sleeping. And y'all have a great night. We'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.